So this is the starting point, is continually learn new skills. So I'm going to ask you a question. By the way, this is a golden question, and I learned it in Salt Lake City from a really good Mormon. And he said this is the best question that he ever learned in life, and it was. Ask this question, and I say, imagine you had a magic wand, and you could wave a magic wand, and overnight you could become absolutely excellent in any one skill. What one skill would help you the most to double your income? Imagine you could take a magic pill and poof, like a miracle. Tomorrow you get up and you are absolutely excellent. You're one of the best in the country in a single skill. What one skill would help you the most to double your income? Write down your answer. Write down your answer, please, quickly. It's very important. When you think it, ink it, as they say. Write it down, write it down, write it down. What one skill? And everybody knows the answer. If you don't know the answer to this, you are in serious trouble. It's basically like you're lost in a foreign country with no roadmap, no GPS system. You are in serious trouble. You cannot go anywhere, right, left, straight ahead, or behind, because you don't know where you are. You've got to know the answer to this. Now, sometimes people will say, well, I think this is my answer. Well, now there's a very important statement in modern business. It's called proof of concept. Proof of concept. In other words, all right, prove that your answer is correct. And how do you do that? Is you go to your boss, you go to your coworkers, and you say, this is what I think is the most important skill that I need to master to be more valuable around here. What do you think? And in many cases, they'll say, yes, you're absolutely right. If you were really, really good at that, combined with your other skills, you can make a fantastic difference. And sometimes they say, no, that's not the skill you need to master at all. You need to be good at this. This is far more important than that. Oh, you go, whack, gee, I hadn't even thought of that. But you must know what it is, or you're setting off on a trip and you're taking the wrong road. And the faster you go on the wrong road, the worse off you are, the faster you fail. So what is your answer? So please turn to the person next to you and tell them the one skill that if you are absolutely excellent at it would help you the most to double your income. What is it? Tell the person next to you. And what you're going to do to develop that skill. What's your plan? Okay, so if I can have your attention. This is one of the fastest ways to become one of the highest paid people in your field. And here's an interesting discovery. You have 100 billion brain cells. Each of these brain cells is connected with ganglia and neurons to as many as 20,000 other brain cells. According to Tony Buzan, who's a learning expert, he said this means that your potential thinking ability is 100 billion to the 20,000th power, which is a number that is the equivalent of the number 1 followed by 9 pages of zeros. In other words, you can think more thoughts with your brain than all the molecules in the known universe. And most people use that to go to and from work and watch TV and check their email messages or their spam or their whatever else is on there. And so this incredible brain of yours is like a muscle. If you work out a muscle, you know that the process of muscle development is when you put strain on a muscle, you pump blood into the muscle, the blood explodes the capillaries, and the body then builds fat around the capillaries. So as you keep puffing up your muscles, bulking up, pumping, as your muscles get bigger and bigger. It's the same thing with your brain. As you concentrate, as you think, as you write, as you take notes, what happens is you activate more and more of these brain cells. It's very much like a city. As it comes toward the end of the day, the lights start to turn on, the street lights. First there's street lights here and street lights there. And then if you fly over Los Angeles, you see the whole city as a maze of light. Well, that's what happens with your brain, is until you start to put pressure on your brain is like lights that are out. But as soon as you start to think and learn, you start to turn on all these lights, which means that the more you learn, the more you can learn. The faster you learn, the faster you can learn. I speak French, German, and Spanish, and I'm now working on Russian, Chinese, and Italian. I've promised my friends in Portugal, if they invite me back again, I'm going to learn some Portuguese. And also my friends in Poland have asked me to learn Polish. So I say, okay. When I started off, I read something that changed my life. It said the reason why Americans don't learn foreign languages is because they're so afraid of sounding foolish when they try it out for the first time. And the reason Europeans know lots of foreign languages is because they have no fear of sounding foolish when they try out the language. So I said, okay, I'm not going to have any fear about sounding foolish. And from then on, I learned language after language. I subsequently learned that the first language that you learn is very hard because you have to actually create a whole new series of neural connections. But the second language is easier, and the third language is easier. And now I meet people who speak 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 languages. And they just learned. One gentleman I was talking to the other day speaks 16 languages competently. Competently. Jeez. And he's not even very smart. I mean, that'll really bug you. To meet somebody who's doing better than you, who's dumber than you. I mean, that really gets you mad. Anyway, what he's done is he's learned that once you learn how to learn a language, it becomes like a rhythm. Is once you learn how to juggle, then you can just juggle all the time. Ride a bicycle, type with the keyboard, learn a language. You can learn to learn, and you can learn any subject that you need to learn. This is one of the great turning points in my life, is you can learn any subject that you need to achieve any goal you set for yourself. You want to double and triple and increase your income 5 times? That's fine. The only thing between you and that is skills, and skills are all learnable. I say don't ever let yourself be held back because of a single skill. I worked with this young guy in my sales seminars, and he was really struggling because he was terrible at closing. He was terrible at closing. He was really nice personality. He made appointments. He talked to people. He showed them the product. They all liked it. When it came to the close, he went into paralysis. So we took him in and we sat down, took him out on a couple of calls, brought him, and we found out that the reason he went into paralysis, he didn't know what to say. He didn't know what words to use. So we taught him the words to use. Say these words. And then if this is kind of a situation, say these words. In this situation, say these words. So he went out and he said the words, and people said, okay. And they bought it. And the next call, he said the words, and they bought it. His income went up 10 times in 8 months. He went from basically driving a beaten-up car to driving a new Mercedes. He said it was unbelievable. He said, I just learned how to close the sale. And what I found, when I began speaking many years ago, I started with a course called The Art of Closing the Sale. And that course is now the most popular course on sales closing techniques in the world. I looked at 100 closing techniques. I extracted 24 of the very best and most popular used worldwide. Lots and lots and lots of research. I structured them exactly when to use them and how to use them, what to do prior to asking for the sale so that you know that the time is right, what you do when the customer objects, and how you close the sale. And people went out and their sales just exploded like fireworks displays. Couldn't believe it. Just missing one skill was the difference between living in an apartment or living in a basement below their mother's house. I have one friend, he came up to me, he invited me to speak to 2,000 people. And the 2,000 people was hooked up to 80,000 people by video streaming worldwide. And I had lunch with him afterwards. He said, you know, you changed my life. And it was the same program that Dustin was talking about. He said, you showed me how to sell. He said, I was living in a basement below my mother's house. I was 25 years old, married with one child, driving a jalopy. My wife was working at the supermarket bagging groceries. And I'd been working for 2 years and had hardly made a single sale. And then I learned how to close a sale. He said, got 2,000 people here. He lives in a multi-million-dollar house in La Jolla. He's got a fabulous life. I mean, it's just unbelievable. He just learned a skill. So don't ever let the lack of a skill hold you back. And if you're going to learn a skill, pick the skill that can help you the most. And focus on the single skill. So climbing this ladder, as you climb the ladder, you actually compound. And every skill becomes more and more valuable. And at the end of the day, none of us will achieve it, but you're earning 300 times what the average person who started off with you who didn't learn any skills. They're still working. Here's what they found at the University of Chicago, is the average person works to learn their job in the first year. They learn to learn their job so that they don't get fired and so that they don't irritate their coworkers by not carrying their share. Those are the two motivators. I don't want to get fired and I don't want my coworkers to be angry at me. And then, like a plane, rising to a certain altitude, they level off. And they never improve again. 10 years after most people start a job, they're no more productive than they were after 1 year. They're just going along. And who do people associate with? Birds of a feather flock together. So they associate with other people who don't learn, aren't growing, don't have any money. And what do they talk about all the time? How much everything costs and how little money they have. And why the boss is no damn good because he doesn't give them more money, even though they're no more productive. What do top people do? University of Chicago is they just continue climbing the ladder. They just continue learning new skills. They breathe in, breathe out, learn new skills. They look at a skill and they say, how can I apply this to get better results? Wherever they are, and they just keep going up the ladder. So the average person in the top 20%, bottom 80% flattens out, top 20% grows at 11.8% per year, their income. And that's why you hear all these stories. Average family income hasn't gone up for years or it's gone down, especially under our current federal administration. No names need to be mentioned. And that yet, then on the other hand, people say, well, a lot of people are making a lot of money and they're making more money than before. What's going on here? It's very simple. Is the 80% whose incomes have flattened or declined stopped learning years and years ago. They got out of school, worked hard to learn their job, and watch out for this because it's amazing how many people fall into the comfort zone. The comfort zone is the greatest enemy of success. They reach a certain point where they say, well, I'm making a pretty good living, and that's it. They just flatten out. They never improve. Never read a book. I mean, you give them a book, and they ask them about the book. Well, they never had a chance to open it. Why not? Because they had to watch TV. They had to watch series. They had to do a little bit of binging this week, watch a whole series at once and so on. They always got a reason not to learn. Follow them around with a stick, and you say, look, if you learn these subjects, you're going to have a fabulous life. Follow them around with a stick and beat them with a stick, and they will not read the book. They will not listen to the audio program. They will not go to the course. And you just shake your head. Like the teenagers today have this SMH, shaking my head, shaking my head, shaking my head, just shaking my head. Cannot imagine. These people whine and complain and worry about money all the time, and all they have to do is just get better at what they're doing, and they'll solve all their financial problems. So what they found is people in the top 20%, their average income goes up 11.8% per annum. People in the top 10%, their average income goes up at about 25% per annum. If your income goes up at 25% per annum, you will double it in 3 years. And if you keep increasing your income at 25% per annum, you'll double it again in 3 years and then double it again. You'll increase your income 10 times in 10 years. From wherever it is now, 1,000% increase. I came up with this formula many years ago. I said, what would it take to increase my income 10 times? I took it all the way back to the present, and my income at that time was very low. I mean, we're talking about basement. And I said, all right, 10 times, I was earning $14,400 a year. And I said, what would have to happen? And I just worked out, 25% per annum, I could increase it 10 times in 10 years. So now how would you increase your income 25% per annum? So I figured out, well, I could increase my productivity and my performance by 2% per month. 2% per month, that's nothing. You could do 2% tomorrow morning just simply by working on A tasks. If you worked on A tasks, you'll double your income within 30 days. I mean, so there's lots of techniques. So I'm just saying 2% per month, 25% per year. We're not talking about doubling much faster. So I began to work on this. And how do you do this? Well, is you set your goals, and you review your goals every day. You plan every day in advance. You determine your top priorities. You focus and concentrate on the most valuable things you can do. You read 30 to 60 minutes a day. You listen to audio programs in your car rather than nonsense on the radio. And you just work all the time you work. Just a very simple formula. So I did